Hello and welcome to another tutorial on LaTeX for Java developers. So far we've seen what a LaTeX command is. So it starts with a backward slash or backslash, the command name, and we said that there is no space in the name of the command, and then we said that after that there is an optional square brackets, and we can pass a comma separated list of options to this command, and also the arguments. And we said that each curly bracket must only accept one argument. If a command requires more than one argument, each one of them is going to be inside one pair of curly brackets. All right. And we said that pretty much everything in your .tex file, txt file, is going to be a LaTeX command, because we have to tell LaTeX what to do, and LaTeX goes and does it for us, right? And for example, the very first thing that we typically tell LaTeX is that what kind of document template we're going to use. Is it an article? Is it maybe a memoir? Is it a PowerPoint type of article? Because you can even create PowerPoint presentations with LaTeX, and we will look at this in the future lectures. And then we said that after that there are commands in LaTeX that actually create an environment. Any environment starts with a begin command and end command. So when I say begin document and end document, it means I'm creating a document environment, and inside this environment the main text of the document goes. And when I call LaTeX, LaTeX looks at the template you've chosen and the text that you've put in between this document environment, inside the document environment, and then it translates that text into a very nice PDF format. And we said that there are some things called preamble, for example, that comes before starting the document environment. After declaring your article template and before starting your document, you can have preambles. And the typical use case of preamble is telling LaTeX to include some packages, or telling LaTeX that we want to use some specific packages. All right. And we say that the typesetter that we typically use is PDF LaTeX to create a PDF document. Now, the first thing that we need to do in Java is to create a class that represents a LaTeX command. So let's head to Eclipse. And I have this LaTeX4j project, and in the LaTeX4j top package, I have a base package. So let's create a class called command. And then inside here, what do we want to do for LaTeX command? Remember the structure of a LaTeX command, right? So a command is \name, and then in a square brackets options, and then args, right? arg1, arg2, etc., argn, right? So when we construct a LaTeX command, obviously we want to override the toString method. So when we call the toString method on this class, it creates this the LaTeX command as a string, right? Because everything is going to be translated into a string, and all the strings that represent the stuff inside our .tex file is going to be written into a text file, and then that text file is going to be fed to the LaTeX typesetter, right? And it's going to create a PDF file for us. So we're going to have a string name, right? And then the name of the command, and then a list of options, right? So we can say, for example, a list of string options, and let's import the list from Java util. So Java util, and then we're going to have a list of strings for args, right? List of a string for args. And then in the constructor public command, we're going to have a string name, right? And then so options are basically optional, right? So but we have to specify a list of arguments. So a string an array of strings args, right? So this is how. So the command must have a name, and then a string args. We can actually make this abstract, right? So but for now, let's keep it as a concrete class, because we can even turn this into an interface, but for now, let's just keep it as a concrete class. So we can manually create a command, and obviously we can inherit from this and override the name and stuff for a specific. So this dot name equals name, and we're going to initialize the options, new array list of a string. My autocomplete is searching. So array list of a string, right? And for options, so importing the array list from Java util, and then args is basically new array list of a string. We could also omit this string because it already knows what the type of object this list is holding. And then okay, this dot args and this dot options, right? So, and if we pass all the arguments here, we can initialize these arrays with args.length, because this vararg is actually gets translated into an array, and we know that we can initialize a array list or any type of list with an initial capacity, right? Constructs an empty list with the specified initial capacity, right? If we call the empty array list, it's going to construct an empty with an initial capacity of 10, which is still fine, right? Because most LaTeX commands only accept one argument. So we can also omit this, right? So 10 is enough, the default. So, and then what do we need to do? So there are a few approaches here. One is that we could actually implement this as a builder pattern. So we could create a, because we want to build this command, add at each step, add an argument or add options. So public, for example, add option, right? And then a string option, and then what we're going to do, we're going to so this is void, and then this dot options add option. So we're going to, if we need to add option, we can add it. So we didn't force the user to specify options here. We could have it as a list or something, and then if the default is null, but it's better to have the options as a separate command. Or we can have a public void options, and we can say an array of strings options, right? So when we initialize this, we want to also basically add these arguments as to this arg. So for a string arg in args, or basically colon args, we're just going to say this dot args add arg. Now obviously we could also use a single command for this. Instead of doing this, we could just say this dot args is arrays from Java util dot as list, and then args, right? And this compiles fine. This returns a list of a string, which is but here we want to make sure that it's still a array list, right? So it's an ordered list. Same here. So what we are going to do here, we're going to say for a string option in options, we're going to say this dot options because we are sure that options has been initialized, so it's not a null object, dot add option. All right, so we add the option, and eventually we're going to override the toString method. So right click source generate to a string, right? And then name option args. Let's just or maybe let's just go to source override implement. Override implement methods. Our superclass is object. We're going to override the toString method, and we're not going to call the toString of superclass. Instead, we are going to construct the LaTeX command, right? So what we are going to do, we're going to create a string builder. Well, actually, we can also define it globally, a string builder command. All right. And we can even initialize it. This dot command is a new string builder. And we can give it an initial capacity, but again, the initial capacity should suffice, 16 characters. We probably need more than that, but for now, the idea is that once a command is constructed, we may call to a string multiple times, so it's better to have this command created globally. So what we're going to say is that, or we can initialize it inside the toString method. So if command equals null, go ahead and construct it. Else, we're going to just return command to a string, right? We convert a string builder to a string. So how do we construct this? So command dot append backslash name, right? So backslash plus name. And then the problem here is that this backslash is a escape. It indicates escape sequence, so we have to escape it itself, right? So this doesn't translate into a regular expression, right? So this is just a simple backslash. If you're not familiar with escape sequences, let me just quickly recap them. Escape sequence is basically backslash T, for example, for a tab, backslash there are other types of backslashes that we can use. Typically backslash T is the most common one, or if we want to have a actual backslash, we have to escape it with another backslash. So we start with appending the name, and then what we need to do, well, actually we don't need this else. If the command is null, we first construct it and then we convert it to a string, or if the command is not null, we just return it because command is not going to change. So what do we need here? We need, after appending the name, we have to check if options is null or not. So so add so let's write this. Step 1, add command name. Step 2, add options. So if options dot size, for example, or we can say option is empty. If it's empty, we're going to say command dot append just a square brackets, right? Else, if it's not empty, we are going to add these in a comma separated way. So, and then we add them to the actual command. So what we're going to say is that, how do we convert a list? So if I have a list of A, B, C, how do I convert it into if I have an array list, how do I convert it into a string that all the elements are appended with comma? So a string dot join, right? And then we can say char sequence delimiter, char sequence, and iterable. So we have an iterable. So delimiter is comma, right, with a space, and we have options. So a string join gives us a string that takes this iterable of a string, and yeah, I believe it should be an iterable of char sequence. A string obviously implements this char sequence, and then this is good, and it automatically takes care of the last element. It doesn't add comma after the last element. So this is a nice feature. They added this, I believe, in JDK 12 or something, and I always use this for converting the char sequence or an iterable object of typically of a string. If it's a iterable object of some other type, it just calls the toString method on them, right? So we get this. So after we get this, we say that command dot append, we're going to have a square bracket and then this string join, right? and then another square bracket here. So this is for options, and then add arguments. So arguments, each argument should be inside one pair of curly braces, right? So what we're going to do is now obviously arguments shouldn't be empty, so we don't need to really check for that. For a string arg in args, we're going to have command dot append, basically, and then what we're going to say is that we're going to add a curly brace and then arg, and then plus another curly brace, right? At the end, we can also, after we're done, we're going to add a new line, So command dot append backslash n. Backslash n is another escape sequence that just appends a new line, right? So this is how we construct the command, and we can go ahead and test it. So in the test LaTeX for J, let's create a class test command, and let's also have a main method here. We have a warning here, so we have a unused import. Let's remove that. So I'm going to create a method called test1, public static void test1, and here I'm going to say let's say doc string or var doc class is new command. And this command is going to, so for document class, the name is just document class, right? And it's lowercase. Almost all LaTeX commands are always lowercase. And args, we're going to give an array, and this only takes, for example, one argument, which is article, right? That's one argument. This basically translates into backslash document class and empty options and then article. So let's test it. So sysout doc class, and we are also adding a new line sequence character to it so that it goes to the next line. Cannot invoke a string builder append because this command is null. So why? So command, if command is null, obviously we have to initialize it. So command equals new string builder, right? If it's originally null, we have to initialize it and then build a sequence of characters, build a sequence of strings, and then return this. So this should work. Yeah, so document class article, and now we can also add options. For example, I can say doc class dot add option, and then I can say 10 pt. What this means is that this is a let's set the global font size to 10 pt, or the default font size to 10 pt, and I can have another option. So dot add option. Basically, this add option returns a void. Maybe it's good to return the command itself so that we kind of can return this, and we can remove this. So add option 10 pt, and then we can continue this add option. For example, we can say the default mode, it's not a full document, it's a preview document. As you can see, now they are separated by comma. So options are always inside this square bracket, but we only always have one pair of square brackets, and all the options are passed in as a comma separated list to this and then okay, so let's keep this, and then what we're going to do, so this was a class to create the document and a command. So so we're setting up document basically template, and then let's begin and end document. Begin document, so var begin doc, for example, is new command, Again, and remember that an environment, even an environment, starts with two commands, right? An environment starts with a begin command and end command. And because now we have implemented the command itself, then basically we can use two commands to mimic or to implement a environment. So here we're going to name is begin, and then args is basically document. All right, and obviously var end doc is new command, end, and then args is document. So you can immediately see what my plan is for creating a class for a environment. Is just going to have two LaTeX command, one for the beginning, one for end, and some other stuff in between, right? So sysout begin document, and then sysout end doc. As you can see, we have this begin document and end document, and then in between, and so this begin square brackets, they have empty options, which I believe it's fine, we can check it. But then in between that, so this is end document, in between that let's add some text. So a string text is let's go with this type of strings. Let's add the semicolon, and here hello world. This is the first Java created LaTeX document. And then we're going to sysout text. So let's run this. All right, so let's see if this works. So what we're going to do, I'm going to, in the LaTeX tutorial folder, I'm going to create a new folder, tutorial_2. And then here I'm going to create a new file. Let's say tutorial, let's see, how did we name the first one? Tutorial1. Okay, so new file tutorial2.tex, right? I'm going to say it's a tex file, .tex. Finish, and then let's just open this up, and then copy this text into this tag. So paste and save it, and as I mentioned before, we can just run the LaTeX from the command line. So I can open up a terminal here, and then pdf LaTeX tutorial2.txt, and it's complaining because it says that the begin and end are special commands. So let's look at the log file. It's empty. What it says is that missing a begin document. So begin and end are special commands, begin document and end document, that they don't accept these square brackets, right? They don't accept any options, even empty options. So what we need to do here, we need to check for the name if options is empty. If name equals basically begin, or name equals end, we're not going to add this square bracket. So we can just append an empty string, and then else if options is empty. So if the name is not equal to begin or end, then we're going to have we're not going to add the empty square brackets, and then otherwise if the option is empty, we add the square bracket. And then or the other way around is that there are also other math in LaTeX environments that start with begin. So I think it's best, instead of checking the name, we check the args, right? So we're going to say that if let's keep this for now, and then we can later on decide how to modify this. So I'm going to run this again. So now we don't have those square brackets. Okay, so copy this, put this inside our tex file. save it, and then go back to terminal. And LaTeX is waiting for us to see what we're going to do. I'm going to just, it says type H return, so, or maybe escape, and X to quit. Okay, it quits the command line, and then PDF LaTeX tutorial 2. All right, tutorial2.tex, and now the text is working fine. As you can see, the PDF was created, and we were able to, hello world, this is the first Java created LaTeX document. All right, so once we have a class that represents a LaTeX command, we can actually create different environments, because any environment also starts with a command and ends with a command. And here basically we could check the name of the args, or for now let's keep it like this, and later on we decide what to do with this. So so I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one.